I've met with over 250 families this year for SAT prep, and these are the top 3 problems that each one of them had and exactly how you can fix them as well. For those of you guys who don't know me yet, my name is Jared Wynn. I'm the founder and director of Geometry Gurus SAT Prep, and at this point in my career, I've helped hundreds of students increase their SAT scores so they can go to their dream colleges or qualify for scholarships. Problem number 1 that I saw most frequently was they had no idea where to start. A lot of the parents that I work with are either immigrants or their kids are the first ones that are going to be going to college in America. So they had no idea how the United States system worked for test prep or college admissions. But most importantly, a lot of their kids had no idea where to even start for SAT prep. They just were relying on Khan Academy, Blue Book, test prep books, or maybe they were doing a generic platform for, with a tutor, whatever. The problem is that they were just trying to go from cover to cover for a book, right? Or maybe just going down the entire program for Khan Academy, but it wasn't getting anywhere because it wasn't catered to their specific needs. What do I mean by that? Is because most of these materials, family, you need to remember, are curated for everybody. So if it's curated for everybody, it's really designed for no one because it has nothing to do with your specific kid. For example, I could have 2 kids, 1100 and 1100. Those 2 might have completely different weaknesses. So it wouldn't make sense to just throw them into some generic plan like that. So if you don't know what your weaknesses are, if you don't know how to diagnose your problems, then reality is it's going to be really difficult for your team to actually attack anything. So what your team needs to do is that they need to do a comprehensive diagnostic exam so that they can see exactly which of the 64 SAT concepts they actually need the most help on. Not just, okay, what are you getting wrong, but why are you getting those things wrong? Is it a timing issue? Is it a concept issue? Or is it just because you're so tired from the previous portion of the exam that by the time you got to the end part of the exam, you're fried? If you don't know exactly why you're making the mistakes, then I don't care how much brute force your team does. I don't care how much practice they do, they're never going to get to that underlying issue as to why they're making those mistakes. So that's usually the number 1 problem. They don't know what they don't know. And if you don't know what you don't know, then good luck, right? It's like trying to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but you don't even know where the rainbow starts, right? That's the best analogy that I can give. Now, the second problem that I typically see is that parents have no idea how to structure their teen's SAT prep. Knowing your weaknesses is one thing, but actually practicing those weaknesses in a way that you'll improve, in a way that fits into your schedule, that's another thing. So here's exactly what I see. Most students that I run into are either student athletes, right? They're doing music, or maybe they're doing theater, extracurriculars, internships, whatever. But the problem is SAT just kind of gets put to the back burner because the SAT for them is, 2 to 3, maybe even 4 months away. So they just don't feel like really working on it. So what happens is they wait until the last minute, maybe a month before. And reality is if you are just only studying a month before, you don't have enough time. So what happens is they just lose out on valuable time to actually practice those weaknesses. So that's why a typical runway that I've seen is really good is 10 to 12 weeks, or sometimes even more if your kid is particularly weak in a certain area. But a lot of students as well, even if they figured out how to actually fit it into their time, like they make the time, they don't know how to actually practice because they're just focusing too much on what they're making mistakes on, not why are they actually making those mistakes. Now, for example, let's say you got something correct on the exam. You might not think to work on it because you got it correct. But what if you spent 5 minutes on that particular problem? All of a sudden, is that a strength? No, because you took 5 minutes to do that problem. On the contrary, what if you got something wrong on the exam, but you only had 10 seconds to do it because you were spending so much time on the previous problem? Obviously, this probably isn't a weakness, or you don't even know if it's a true weakness or not. So which one would you rather work on? You should be working on the thing taking you 5 minutes, but most students, they're not aware of that. So they're working on the wrong things, and they're using materials that are just way too easy for them. Like, for example, they'll use Khan Academy, they'll use the College Board Question Bank, but those questions are just nowhere close to as difficult as the materials you're going to see on the real exam. Same thing with the Blue Book exams as well. So a lot of students, they think they're practicing properly, they think they're actually doing something that's going to increase their score, and even their practice exams are going up, but then they take the real thing and it's just so much harder than what they're used to. So that's why it's so important to understand that, hey, you got to focus on the why, just like how we mentioned earlier, but you got to be using materials that are slightly harder than the real thing. So by the time you see the real thing, you're just like, done this a million times, it feels like nothing to you. But also, of course, you got to make sure it fits into your overall schedule. A lot of students don't know how to do that. So you got to learn the art of time blocking, in which you're, actually making sure that, every single day you set out time for SAT prep. If it's 30 minutes to an hour, it doesn't really matter. You just got to make sure that you make the time. And then once you make the time, make sure you're working on the right things. Now, the third thing that I see that a lot of parents have a problem with at this point is that their kids are just really scared of the exam, or they're scared for the exam. Now, what do I mean by this? For a lot of students and a lot of parents, they think that this test is going to dictate the rest of their lives. Not really, but kind of, right? Because it is going to affect the scholarships that you're able to get, and it's going to be able to affect the colleges that you're able to go to. So that's why they have this emotional blocker here, where just like either A, they don't want to try because they're scared of failing, or B, they're just so anxious throughout the entire process that they never really demonstrate what they're actually able to do. So the only way that you can treat this anxiety is if you have just continuous exposure, consistency with the exam. Like, for example, for the students here, the way to give the exposure is that they have to be doing homework every single day, and they have to be doing the practice exam every single week. That's not for show, guys. That's not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You got to be used to seeing that material, so by the time you see it on the real thing, you're just like, yeah, I'm not scared, I'm not anxious. All right, because we fear what we are not familiar with, and we fear what we are not prepared for. So that's the only reason why you're ever scared about the SAT. Okay, family, so those are the top 3 problems that I see that every single family has. If you guys need help applying these to your unique situation, go ahead and send me an email or send me a DM. I'd be more than happy to help you guys out. But until then, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next video.